sunshine, cause hooray.
Welcome to Monaco. Dazzling Duel on the Mediterranean coast, a place where opulence and sophistication are intertwined in every exquisite detail. You've got the glitz, you've got the glam. I'm showing you my hometown and you're all bored.
No disrespect, DC, but we've heard it all before. The big boats, the expensive cars. We're here for the racing.
Oh my goodness! What a move! Evans up through Beau Rivage!
Casino Square. All the action takes place here.
Fantastic, isn't it? This is Monte Carlo.
The walls are close. Very unforgiving. How close can we get?
What a move!
So through Mirabeau.
3 wide into the Grand Hotel hairpin.
Nick Cassidy, 3 places in 1 go!
That is impressive.
And then this iconic moment going into the tunnel.
You arrive into the bright Mediterranean sunshine. Now you're looking like a movie star.
And what about a last lap lunge for the lead of the race down the Nouveau chicane?
All locked up! Gets it stopped! Da Costa takes the lead on the final lap!
Or a dive into Tabac.
Side by side into Tabac! Bold stuff from Robin Fries.
Or into the swimming pool like Da Costa after his race win?
Actually, that sounds better.
Calm down and tell me that I just won.
And all to be on top of that prestigious podium.
Buemi in front, Da Costa, Cassidy!
I've been up there a couple of times.
Hello and welcome to Monaco. We've got race 8 of this Formula E season coming up later on in the show, but we start the show with qualifying on these streets that have seen their fair share of great racing over the years. And to enjoy it all with me, I'm joined by former Formula 1 and FE driver Karun Chandok, ex-team principal of Maserati, James Rossiter, and a man who's won a couple of races here, and resident David Coulthard. Thanks for joining me, guys. We have got a really special day of racing coming up, Karun, and of all the places to do it, this is a really special one.
It's a jewel in the crown. It's a cliche that gets used a lot, but I think it's absolutely true when we come here. You've got the history, you've got these amazing streets which all of our heroes have driven on, and I think the drivers today are very lucky and privileged to be doing it.
Yeah, that's good timing, isn't it? Turn on those sirens. Anyway, James, you've had fond memories on this circuit. Had a podium finish here.
Yeah, 18 years ago. No, we're more fond memories of last year. You know, we're fighting at the front with the team with Maserati MSG Racing. I think they could be strong here today.
Yeah, I mean, and on to you, DC. 2-time Monaco Grand Prix winner. Look, he's not even smiling. Look, I mean, come on. I mean, that's some achievement. How good is it to see Formula E on the streets here racing?
It is great, and you know, really nice atmosphere. It's been building up. It's a full-on action-packed day. You know, Grand Prix is much more relaxed. You know, all starts in the afternoon, but they were out on track just after 7 this morning.
Yeah, it's been great out there. Just to reflect back on race 6 and 7 over in Italy, we had some really interesting stuff going on. Lots of drama over in Rimini. You know, that last lap with Oliver Rowland in race 7, where he just completely ran out of energy, was remarkable. Are we expecting to see anything similar today in terms of the drama of the racing?
Well, in terms of drama, I expect the unexpected, but I think in terms of the racing, you'll see a different type of race. It was a much wider track in Misano, slightly narrower here, but it's still a fast track and a flowing track in Formula E terms, so it should be good.
Well, we've got lots to look forward to, but already in practice 1 today, we've had some news, and we can go to Nikki for more information on that.
Thanks, JJ. Yeah, it's been a very busy morning, of course, for FP1 and FP2 here in Monaco, but particularly down at the McLaren garage because, unfortunately, Sam Bird had a big moment in FP1 and went into the wall at Saint-Devote. Now, unfortunately, he has actually fractured his hand, and consequently, that means he's not going to be racing today. Joining me now is team principal Ian James. Let's just get a bit of an update. Obviously, hugely disappointing. You know, our thoughts are really with Sam at the moment. Can you give us an update on how he's doing?
Yeah, so as you say, Sam had the incident this morning in FP1. It was immediately obvious that he had an issue, and very quickly we were able to take the decision together with Sam and our doctor here that he wasn't, unfortunately, going to be competing in the rest of the Monaco E-Prix. He's been taken to hospital, he's had the x-rays, he's having the best possible care at the moment, and we're just trying to work out what the next step should be.
Okay, thank you. Well, Sam, our thoughts are very much with you, and if you are watching it, get better soon. But you do have, of course, a stand-in driver. Tell us about Taylor Barnard. How have you been prepping him to come into the race? Well, qualifying is now, and then obviously the race later. He did the rookie test earlier in the year.
I don't think it's the way that Taylor or we would like to bring him in, but fantastic that obviously we've got him here. He did a phenomenal job in the rookie test in Misano a couple of weeks ago. Listen, there's no pressure on him, no expectations whatsoever. We want him to start building up session by session, just understanding what it's going to take to get this Formula E car around the Monaco track. It's fascinating to watch how he's reacting. It's gone from that sort of moment of sheer terror when we said that you're going to go in the car, through to when he gets his race suit on, the heart rate goes down, and as soon as he's in the car, as with all of the drivers, the consummate professional, and I'm confident he's going to do a great job.
I'm sure he's going to absolutely love it. What a race to have your debut here in Monaco. Ian James, thoughts with you and the team. Good luck. Thank you very much. Well, there we have it. And we really are just moments away from qualifying. Let's remind ourselves of the qualifying format in Formula E. So the 22 drivers are split into two groups, Group A and Group B, 11 drivers in each. They've got 12 minutes to set the fastest lap time possible. You can see Pascal Wehrlein there will be in Group A. He, of course, has got into the duel 6 out of 7 times so far this season, whereas Antonio Felix Costa, none. Then in Group B, you've got Jake Dennis, another championship rival, also at the top on 89 points. So those drivers have got 12 minutes to set the fastest time possible. Then the top 4 of each of those groups go through to the duel phases. We have the quarter-final, the semi-final, and then the final to decide who will take that pole position here in Monaco. 4 out of 6 times pole position has had a light to flag victory. So it means everything here in qualifying. JJ, back to you.
Thank you very much, Nikki, and we can enjoy it all in just a few moments' time. We've sent DC and Karun over to commentary to get themselves ready for qualifying, as I said, coming very soon. I want to get into that news that Nikki's just spoken about with Sam Bird. Really unfortunate for McLaren and for Sam, going to be missing the race today due to that incident.
Yeah, unbelievable, really. I mean, we saw him here, he brakes super late, but what I don't understand is the car doesn't stop. It's almost like there's an issue with the software because it's very uncharacteristic of Sam to make a mistake like that. You can see both front wheels fully locked. And then what's really unfortunate is how he hits the wall. The steering wheel gets ripped out of his hand, and that's really what's caused the damage there. So, very tough break.
Yeah, I mean, what should you do quickly in that situation? Should you be letting go of the wheel, really?
I mean, you can do, but you're trying to save it but to the last minute. And the fact that he was almost safe, I mean, he was very unlucky to clip the wall and it get ripped out of his hand that much. Hindsight, of course, you would say, yes, let go. But, yeah, difficult one for him.
And very quickly, massive chance for Tyler Barnard today, who's going to be stepping in.
Incredible. 19-year-old, first race in Formula E. Should be amazing.
It should be indeed. Well, as I said, we've got so much to look forward to today. It starts with qualifying, so let's head over to our commentary team of David Coulthard, Karun Chandok and Tom Brooks.
It's round 8 of the 2024 ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. We are ready to go for qualifying then here in the Principality of Monaco. What a spectacular location, full of history, and we're ready for the first of the group stages to get underway. Here are the drivers that will be taking part. Pascal Wehrlein for TAG Heuer Porsche, Oliver Rowland for Nissan, Max Günther for Maserati, then Mitch Evans for Jaguar, Norman Nato, Robin Freitz with Da Costa, Muller, Sete Camara, Lucas de Grassi, and then Nick de Vries there for Mahindra as well. So 11 drivers ready to take to this circuit here for the first of our group stages, a 12-minute session, and as Nikki said, the top 4 will be going through into the dual stages here later on this morning. The sun is shining, the wind has picked up ever so slightly, but it's nice in terms of the weather conditions here, especially compared to what we had yesterday, where it was a bit of torrential rain in the afternoon. But this man here, Pascal Wehrlein, will get the session underway as he exits pit lane for TAG Heuer Porsche. Looking forward to this session. David Coulthard, you know this track particularly well. You've won here a couple of times. What's the key to a good lap around Monaco?
Well, it's how committed you are relative to the barriers, ultimately. So, in my belief, you need to have a car that's got good front end. You've got to be able to really spot to the apexes and lean on that front tyre. And there's a number of corners where you're actually using the front to sort of slow the car. The hairpin would be a perfect example of that. So it's just too long to classically brake and then start picking up the power. So it's a confidence track, and it needs the driver to really know the width of his car but also really know how much he can lean on it on the way into the turns.
And Corinne, you finished on the podium here in GP2. What year was that?
2008.
Oh, there we
I
go.
was leading in 2009 and the dry shaft broke, which was really annoying. I had a lot of tequila that night.
Remortgage the house the day after, sort of thing. But yeah, looking forward to this session. Free practice 1, free practice 2, obviously really compact schedule that we've got here in Monaco. We saw that mistake from Sandberg, that's cost him. We've got Taylor Barnard now in the McLaren. What do you think the expectations are going to be for him and for the team, especially given the fact that he's only had the 1 free practice session?
It's tough. I think he almost needs to treat this session as another bit of testing and practice and learning. You know, he's 19 years old, I think the youngest ever driver we've had in Formula E. He's driven the car quite a bit, including recently out in Misano, but it's very different doing it on street circuits. So what we do know in Formula E is actually you can come through the pack. So obviously he's going to be trying to do the best lap time he can, but I think this session is very much about learning, gaining more experience for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Group A qualifying out now, these 12 drivers.
Still push 300.
So Bill pushed 300. What he's saying there is, you know, go out, do a build lap, get yourself all the energy and all the resources that you need available, do a push lap, and that's at 300 kilowatts of power. So that's the standard amount of power that these cars have in racing conditions. In the duels later, they'll have an extra 50 kilowatts.
Yeah, I mean, despite the fact that it looks beautifully warm and sunny out there, it has got a bit of a nip in the air, and it's, you know, the track temperature is rising, but it's still quite cool. So these tires in Formula E, they have the same tires that last the entire day. They've got 2 sets of tires that they need to juggle throughout this day. So they're not a particularly soft compound. It does take a little while to get temperature, particularly into the front tires.
Yeah, when you mentioned about nip in the air, we're not far as the crow flies from the Alps. You can ski, you know, maybe only, you know, sitting here a few meters from the Mediterranean Sea, but we're only about 50k from a ski resort as the crow flies. So you do get, with the wind, some cold and poor weather fronts. We had a bit of rain yesterday, which was not great when you're filming an opener in an open-top car.
Looking forward to seeing that later.
Great, don't worry.
Well, my makeup was running and everything. It was really tough.
The mascara?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know me well.
On board here with Robin Price, you can see this car in constant corrections of the steering wheel around this circuit. I mean, if you compare it to an F1 car, lots smoother compared to what we're seeing here. They're just soaring away at the wheel constantly.
Well, the one thing that stood out when I had the opportunity to drive a couple of laps in Misano is that there's a lot of weight in the steering, which normally, in my old school mind, I would, you know, equate weight of steering to amount of downforce that you have, which, of course, in these cars you don't have downforce. It's mechanical grip. And I suspect, and Kroon will be able to explain in a little bit more detail, it's to do with the fact that you've got that recovery front axle drivetrain. There's a motor in the front of the car, which I'm going to discover in its 4-wheel drive glory later when I drive the Evo 3 car, which puts in that extra mechanical force into the driver's hands.
Yeah, that's right. They do a load of recovery on the front axle, which is where I think some of the load comes in the steering. It's certainly much heavier than the Gen 2 or the Gen 1 steering is. So, yeah, we'll have a look on track. Evans has been very, very quick throughout this day, hasn't he? Free practice 2, he was absolutely on it. Wide of the apex there, up at Casino Square, that would have compromised his run. Roland at the moment, Tom, at the top of the times in a Nissan and in a season where he is really doing a fantastic job, I think.
Yeah, it's been really impressive from Oliver Roland. You know, 4 podiums in the 4 races. Incredibly unlucky a couple of weeks in Misano to miss out on that victory, running out of energy, whether it was a miscalculation or whatever happened there. He ran out on the final lap in circumstances that we've not seen in Formula E for a very long time. And, you know, he'll be out trying to put as strong a result as he possibly can together. But he has been the standout performer. And as we see Anthony Joshua inside the Nissan garage, 2-time former unified heavyweight champion, he'll be going out all guns blazing, I reckon, for this one.
Yeah, it's a boxing bag in the pit lane.
Yeah.
He'll have a go.
Yeah, we all had a little go. And, well, I expect he'll break the machine.
How did you fare?
My first attempt was pretty lame. Second attempt, I think we were sort of nip and tuck.
Yeah,
but I put my legs into it. Kroon just used his absolute upper body strength to nail the bag.
I'm a bit short. I had to jump up really to reach it.
Headbutt it.
Yeah. Just looking here at Sergio Sette Camera, they've had a myriad of problems down at ERT so far here today. So you look at Russell O'Hagan, the deputy team principal, just watching on. But drive shaft related issues keeping Sette Camera out of action in FP1. They got it going, but only for the final few minutes of FP2. So sort of damage limitation here for them this morning.
So Max Günther, he's done his first run, come into the pits, and we'll see most of the others coming in. In fact, I think we'll see all the others come in pretty soon to change to their second set of tyres. And now, you know, for those of you listening, you might wonder that we're sort of not getting particularly excited about the times at this stage, and that's because as the session unfolds, typically we've seen it's on that second set of tyres, that's when the real benchmarks get set to get them into the duels.
It's a good slow-mo there to show that front drivetrain. There's a little white sticker there that identifies going to the centre of the axle.
Yeah, that's Günther making his way through and running over the curb in the second part of that swimming pool chicane. Here's Antonio Felix da Costa.
So it's basically all corners where you were lacking a little bit in the first lap. So just focus on your tyre warm-up, do maybe a little bit more on the outlap if possible.
Engineers getting all the information that's available to them and feeding that to the driver. The driver will have a basic idea anyway as to how his lap felt, especially if someone as experienced as da Costa.
It's 2.5 tenths away from Fairline, which is where he was this morning, and it's kind of been his gap, hasn't it, throughout the season in qualifying. He's clearly a very good racer, and we often see him come through the pack, as we did in Misano, but in qualifying he's just been missing that sort of 2-3 tenths this year.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah, he proved to be very good at racing circumstances, da Costa, when he went and finished first at the checkered flag in the first race of the weekend at Misano, but then was denied victory following that technical infringement. There are still a few mutterings in the paddock that Nico Müller and Porsche, that story is not quite over there, so we'll see how that develops as the season goes on. As we look inside the Envision garage, looking at Ben Scott, Fritz's race engineer.
Yep, how many boffins does it take to run a Formula E car? Well, that was a perfect example. Lots of them. A lot of brain power on that particular garage.
Well, it's not only just them there as well. They've got the same setup back at base, effectively. You know, it's all controlled by. They've got a CCTV camera back to the FIA to make sure they're not, you know, with more personnel than they should be, and they're running similar situations in different scenarios and so on.
Yeah, the teams are allowed 6 people back at base as per the regulations, I believe, so they get a bit of extra support. Fried struggling on a break. You could hear it, couldn't you? You could hear the tyres squealing, sort of almost like this intermittent sound, trying to pick up any bits of grip. But yeah, a bit of a struggle for him on the brakes.
Yeah, the car is reasonably compliant in terms of its sort of up and down movement, but this track, it's a living thing. They re-tarmac it every year, but you can see as they make the way, I think there's a tree route that comes out on the exit of Casino Square, which has been there forever, and you get always that iconic image of, doesn't matter if it was driving way back in the 50s or Formula E today, they move to the right and then back over to the left partially for breaking down into Mirabo.
It's this middle part of the lap, I think, which some people sort of underestimate. Looking at the bottom right corner at, I think that's Oliver Rowland, isn't it?
That's the Mahindra. That's De Vries.
That's De Vries, yeah. Those 4 slow corners, David, Mirabo, the hairpin, Portier 1 and 2, there's actually a lot of time to be won and lost, because in those slow corners, if you can be 2 or 3 kilometers an hour faster the apex, in percentage terms, that is quite a chunk. And I think a lot of drivers underestimate actually how much you need to hook up even that middle part of the lap.
Absolutely correct, and I think that the bizarre part of that may be difficult for our audience to understand is it's about just keeping the car rolling rather than being latest on the brakes and earliest on the power, which would be sort of classic perception of how you drive most corners. But if you can just be comfortable on the brakes but keep that mid-corner speed up, keep an extra few kilometers an hour, then that's where the lap time gets won.
Speaking of lap times, we're now seeing those beginning to come in a little bit thicker and a bit faster. 1:31.6 for Robin Fries. If you compare that to where we were in FP this morning, we were down in the 1:29s. Of course, some of those were what they call attack mode laps, so they were on the 350 kilowatts worth of power, but we're a little bit further away from the pace. Da Costa puts in a blinder of a final sector, goes to the top of the pile, but is immediately better then by teammate Pascal Wehrlein. As we look here at Günther coming over the line in second place, and now it's crunch time here. Top 4 drivers going through into the duels, just to remind you as well.
That's super super impressive at this stage how close it is, because it's so easy. When Karim was talking about Da Costa normally being a couple of tenths away from Verline, if you actually break that down corner by corner, or you know, every 100 metres of this racetrack, it's a tiny, tiny fraction of time.
Let's watch Evans on this lap, because he's done a slightly different approach. He's gone for a build lap. So his last one was a 1:44, trying to get temperature, and this is his all-out push lap, and I think he'll get one more after this. A little bit tricky through the long left-hander around the Hotel de Paris. Better run, didn't miss the apex as he did before at Casino Square, got the nose into Mirabel. What the amount of movement, David, on the steering wheel, on his hands, incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, well, considering he's been very comfortable and quick in free practice, this doesn't look as assertive as I imagined we were going to see from the driver's eye view. There's obviously a lot of movement in the car in the braking phase, but you can almost see that the uncertainty of the body language, the actual body language of the driver, and then how that relates to the steering input.
Even under braking, his hands moving around so much there, just trying to get the car stopped. But he's done a very quick first sector, very quick second sector, fastest of anybody, nearly 3 tenths up. And this is what we saw from Mitch Evans in free practice earlier. He did 2 laps, in fact, earlier today that were good enough to be at the top of the times, down into Rascasse. Did you notice how he moved his hand to the bottom of the wheel there to try and get a bit more steering lock?
Yeah, well, that isn't one of the tightest corners on the racetrack, but I wonder if that's also just a reflection of this heavier steering weight that they have as well. It's just more comfortable for them to sort of leverage from below.
Yeah, 3.5 tenths the advantage that Evans now holds as Roland gets a snap of oversteer there through Antonino's checkered flag is now out at the end of this session. Where does Roland go? He's only going to go 6th fastest. He doesn't make it into the duels then here for the Nissan team. Drivers now on their final flying laps, a litany of personal best first sector and second sector times coming through. Sete Camera under pressure, no real running in that ERT, but he's been really quick in qualifying so far as he now makes his way through Rascasse. It's a personal best here for the Brazilian driver. Is it going to be anything, though, to write home about in particular? Wasn't bad for him in the first sector, wasn't bad at all in the second sector there either. As he comes to the line, where does he go?
He's out.
Yeah.
So Freins is the one to watch, though, Tom. Watch him come across the line, middle sector, very quick, but he's out. Last sector, he didn't do a very good last sector at all. Verline, Günther, all on good laps, though.
Yeah, Muller also out there in qualifying as well. De Grassi improves up to 9th fastest. Just 2 drivers left who are out of it at the moment. De Vries improves, goes 8th quickest, but again, nothing to write home about. Norman Nato, big snap of overs there for the Da Costa. He's on the bubble at the moment. I think he'll be just about okay to make it through. We've got to keep an eye on Norman Nato and see what he's going to be able to do. It's personal best for him as Da Costa loses time, doesn't improve. Where does Nato go? It's 11th quickest. That is so disappointing. He's been struggling with the balance of the car so far this weekend, but given where the Andretti's were in practice earlier on this morning, he'll be very disappointed with that. So Mitch Evans then concludes the session as the quickest driver ahead of Pascal Wehrlein, Max Günther and Antonio Felix da Costa. They are the top 4 drivers who progress forwards into the duels from Group A. So Mitch Evans then quickest of the lot at the end of the Group A qualifying session ahead of Pascal Wehrlein, Max Günther and Antonio Felix da Costa. So you've got 2 Porsche powertrains in there, one Stellantis at courtesy of the Maserati team, which is their home weekend actually here incidentally as well for the MSG group that runs the outfits, and then also Mitch Evans in the Jaguar that does progress forward and makes it through. There is confirmation of the Group A classification, so you can see Evans, Wehrlein, Günther, da Costa make it through. Freins is out, so is Sete Camera, so is Nico Muller, who's been a standout performer for Abt Cupra. De Vries, Roland, crucially, man who's 3rd in the championship, only 9th quickest at the end of that one, ahead of De Grassi, and then Norman Nato, 0.6 of a second, separating 11 drivers at the end of Group A qualifying. So we did see some improvements there right at the end of that session. And the man who was fastest of the lot was, of course, Mitch Evans. Da Costa, though, made that mistake on his final flyer, Corinne. He was lucky to make it through.
Yeah, it's weird, wasn't it? His last sector wasn't great on that particular lap, but he had done a much better one before. In the end, he's ended up that same sort of 2 and a bit tenths away from Wehrlein. Evans, though, looks pretty unbeatable, you'd have to say, so far. He's got himself and the car dialed into a very, very good rhythm around the circuit.
Yeah, it's been super impressive, super confident all the way through, and that's what I was saying earlier. If you've got confidence in the car, you feel, you know, you're just visualizing your way around the racetrack and the car follows you rather than the car leading you. If it feels like you're, you know, waiting for the car to tell you what it's prepared to do, then you just give away lap time.
3 podiums in the last 3 years here in Monaco for Mitch Evans as well. Third, second over the last few events. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, and he's looking good on it so far. I know it's early days so far in qualifying, but, you know, he's had good pace all weekend.
I always feel uncomfortable with that expression. Never the bride, always a bridesmaid. I think it looks fun being a bridesmaid.
It's a good point, actually.
There's a lot of pressure being a bride.
Well, it depends on if you've got a bridezilla to deal with or not, doesn't it, really? You know,
fair enough.
Well, yeah, I only speak from experience of family members and so on and so forth. Anywho, Group B qualifying along the way next for the drivers to contend with. Another 11 will go out and another 4 will go through.
That's an amazing shot, isn't it? You get a sense of the town.
So then, Group B qualifying about to get underway here in Monaco. This is our second lot of drivers ready to go out on track. Jake Dennis, Nick Cassidy, Jean-Eric Verne, Jake Hughes, Stoffel Van Dorn, Sebastian Buemi, Sasha Fenestraz, Dan Ticktum, Jehan Daruvula, Edo Mortara, and then Taylor Barnard down there for Neil McLaren, making his debut here this weekend following a crash in FP1 for Sam Bird, putting him out due to a hand injury. Confirmation now we have that he's broken one of the bones in his left hand and will require further treatment. Here is Taylor Barnard, the youngster, ready to go. Green flag now is about to fly as we get the session underway. Of course, the disadvantage here for Taylor Barnard is not only the fact that he's a rookie, is the fact that he missed one of those practice sessions here. He's only had half an hour's worth of experience on this circuit.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, isn't there, to be able to head out there and find your way around. It's one thing doing it in the sim world. It's an absolutely different challenge when there is consequence.
He's got the right people around him. The person on the right there, that's Stephen Lane, one of the most experienced engineers in Formula E, and actually a very, very good driver coach as well. Very good at working with the driver and trying to find ways to improve. There's a live shot of him there trying to hold Taylor's hand metaphorically around this qualifying session.
Just got something pop on our timing screen here in the comms box. Nico Müller under investigation for a technical infraction. I wonder whether that might be a bit of overpowering during qualifying. It might result in him being demoted to the back of the grid. We'll keep an update, an eye on an update for that over the course of this session. Don't forget about the Formula E predictor on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen as well. Scan the QR code, and when we get into the dual stages, tell us who you think is going to be the driver that will progress forwards from whether it be the quarters, the semis, or indeed into the finals.
So what do we think about this group? Nick Cassidy, last year's winner, he should be in the hunt, isn't he? His teammates have shown that the car's competitive and been quick, but Nick was some way off in the final free practice session, nearly a second away from Evans's time. So what would have happened between that practice and qualifying in the hour in between? He would have had a chance to look at the data, which shows exactly how Mitch, you know, where he'd be braking, where he'd be picking up the throttle, in terms of also the positioning on the track and the speed that he'd take through the corners. So Cassidy would have had the opportunity to just look and learn a little bit from what Evans has done. They'll also have data from the first run of Group A, so you know he'd have fresh data from Evans there.
Here's a question for you, Gruen. In terms of track evolution, clearly, as you run the line, the tarmac just gets, let's say, race clean as opposed to what they can do with sweeping the circuit. But is there the same track evolution with a groove tyre? Because it's not like a slick tyre, I assume, that kind of lays a layer of rubber into the tarmac.
It's not as much on a track like this, especially that's been washed away. I think when you go to places like Diriyah, then there's a definite benefit for track evolution because you're clearing the dust away. But on a track like this, where we've had torrential rain all day yesterday, I don't think there's a huge difference here.
No, on behalf of the Monaco Tourist Board, it was hardly torrential rain all day. It was heavy rain for a period of time. My God, you're really dissing it.
I mean, I wasn't here for most of it. I just heard from Tom.
Okay. Anything more than a light shower is torrential rain for me. So, looking at Buemi making his way through to back here, just building himself up for a bit of a flying lap. These are the first sort of representative lap times we've got coming through. You can see Nick Cassidy, bottom right-hand corner of your screen. He's been a little way off his teammate Mitch Evans, but as we said, Mitch has been on imperious form so far here this weekend. I'll tell you my standout performer in Monaco has been the last couple of years, and that is Dan Tickton. Finished 5th here last year. He's fresh off the back of a couple of strong results in Misano as well, including a 4th place finish in the first race of the weekend. He loves Monte Carlo, and we know that ERT can be quick in qualifying trim as well.
Yeah, street circuits, some drivers, and I know most of the events in Formula E are of a street circuit nature, but some drivers are just more comfortable with the barrier being there, showing them where the limit is. So I don't know what it would be about Monaco particularly that appeals to him as a driver. Maybe he played it on his sim as a kid a lot more.
Well, I imagine he's got experience here. He's raced in F2 and F3 and so on, so maybe it's just the fact that he's got a bit more seat time here compared to some of the other circuits that we've been to over the last few years. So, carry on.
Yeah, Taylor Barnard has just done his first lap there. Jake Hughes showing the McLaren is strong. He's up in 2nd place. So just as a reference, 31.0 here for Jean-Eric Vergne for his opening hit. But he is going much, much quicker on this next lap. And to sort of answer David's question, you know, the first group did a 30.69. Already Vergne on this lap looks like he could get ahead. So it does look like perhaps there is a bit of track evolution there, maybe because it got washed away yesterday and the rubber is going down. There is a reasonable amount of track evolution going on here.
Special livery for DS Penske here this weekend as well. Predominantly a lot more black with gold accents. Very 70s Lotus-esque. I'm a big fan of that. On board here with Jeb as he makes his way through in towards Rasses. I love this camera angle as well. It gives you a proper idea of the elevation. He's just coming back into the pit lane at the end of this lap. But that's one thing as well. That run up Sandoval into Casino Square through Beau Rivage and so on. The elevation, I should say, really, you don't get to see much of it on the TV cameras, but it's a fair old climb.
It is indeed. It's nice little cardio workout.
Well, it is, yeah. It does your glutes a world of good, but also in terms of when we go into the race, energy saving and so on, that's going to be one of the areas where you're going to expend the most.
Yeah, no question that gravity working against them, that's going to use more energy in that particular phase, but what goes up eventually comes back down again, so it should sort of neutralize itself out.
So this is where they're going to the 2nd set of tyres. Vergne was actually on a much quicker lap, 2nd time around. It's about another 3/10 quicker. But as I was saying in Group A, we often see is now when they get that 2nd set on, they've all had a bit of a practice run. They've got their eye in terms of what the track conditions are like, and they'll get to you know, improve a bit. David, what would you do if you were McLaren and Taylor Barnard? Would you have just left him out there?
31. Okay, Taylor, just some feedback whilst we bring you back in. So Jeb quickest 31.0, Jake 31.
Oh, we didn't get the end of that. But yeah, just saying the Vergne's quickest, and then I'm guessing saying Jake's lap time. So Jake, what's he, a 31.3?
Yeah, so there's the sort of comparison though. So he's 1.1 away from his teammate. I think that is not a bad opening time, and what I think I would be doing in answer to your question is, yeah, just giving him track time, because the qualifying doesn't matter as much as in other formulas because of the energy saving that will be deployed during the race. So this is about just building confidence, because he will then be very busy in the race.
Yeah, and that's why I always wonder whether they could have left him out there on that single set of tyres. I know, you know, you probably gain 2 or 3 tenths by going to the other set of tyres, and in an optimum setting, that's what you do. But he's not learning anything sitting in the pits. So I wonder if you just had him out there doing more laps, whether he'd gain more than he would on another set.
I suppose, given the news that we've just heard that Sam has broken his hand, there's a very realistic possibility he's not going to make it to Berlin in a couple of weeks' time as well. So I wonder if they're wanting to put him through his paces and just, you know, show him exactly what a qualifying session looks like in Formula E, rather than just doing something different.
You can do that in Berlin.
I just hope he didn't, you know, watch his favourite episode of Netflix until late in the night.
So just keep the pace up on the out and cool. Okay, keep the pace up. It's going to be tight. May have to be push. It may have to be push due to that.
Struggling with balance so far this weekend. Jake Dennis, Sean McGill, race engineer, just saying that he's got to keep pushing, but it's going to be tight if they're going to make it through.
Well, his teammate ended up bottom of the times, didn't he, in the first group? So it's I'll be interested to see how Jake gets on. At the moment, he's not going to make it into the duel, so he's going to need to find a bit of lap time in this part. But look, but Barnard's still sitting in the pits, waiting.
Yeah, he's not going to get a lot of running. 3 and a bit minutes to go in this session.
It's going to be a one and done sort of scenario for a lot of drivers here, isn't it? As we look at Edo Mortara making his way through. He ended up clattering into the barrier in free practice too. Quite a simple rebuild for the driver, for the team rather, but nonetheless cost him track time.
Yeah, but very clever actually as he was going off, which was down into Saint Vaude. He got out of the brakes and made sure he hit the Tech Pro barrier with the front and rear wheel at the same time. If you go in with one corner, like we saw with Sam Bird, you take a corner off guaranteed, but if you can go in sideways, if you like, where the impact's spread across the front and rear axle, he damaged his end plate, but he didn't, as far as I can see, damage the suspension.
So Mortara making his way down through into Mirabeau. Sacha Fenestras, bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Top 5 finish for him last time out in Misano. And let's see whether he will be able to trouble the time scorers. Of course, his teammate Oliver Rowland had a challenging time of things a couple of minutes ago, I should say, rather, in the group stages for Group A. Didn't make it through.
Fenestras qualified well last year as well, I seem to recall. He was in the top 4, wasn't he, in his qualifying position. Sorry, I've just sent you deep into the stat sheet.
Let's have a look now.
I'll carry on talking about Mortara's lap while you're digging. He's coming through
last year.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, he comes through the chicane up towards the back. You aim for the barrier on the inside, and then suddenly the track opens up a little bit here, flat out through the swimming pool chicane, and then again, just try and make sure you square the car off in that first bit, and it opens up the second part. He uses a lot of the curb on the right-hand side, picking the yellow curb there, the sausage curb. Anthony knows it always tempts you to turn in a bit early, but you've got to wait. You've got to tell yourself almost to just wait a little bit before you turn the wheel in. And Mortara now goes to the top of the times by just 0.003 of a second. I'm not sure that's going to be enough to hold on, but that is a very, very strong lap so far. Sacha Fenestras, Tom, coming up to the line now.
Yeah, Fenestras goes up 5th fastest. Arugula's just improved up to 3rd as well in the Maserati. So let's see what he can do over the course of this one. Tictum's just beginning a build lap here as we ride on board with the Briton in towards Raskas. This is where you ended up with Jarno Trulli on top of you.
I did, yeah. Lucky to get away with that one. So yeah, Tictum doing a build lap. So he's going to go for just a one-hit wonder at the end. Fenestras, if he hurries along, he'll get one more go at it. Mortara will definitely get another go at it as we go on board with Mortara.
Where does that put us? You're quickest at the moment. This is a cool out. Let's look after those rears, keep the fronts. Okay, we got 1 minute. I cannot do better than that.
So Mortara saying he's reached his ceiling there, as it were, with a 1:31.042.
Right. Let's see if it's enough. I guess, you know, people like Cassidy down in 8th place. Cassidy, he needs a big lap here, and his first sector is not great. Now, only 6.8 is not a good first sector.
Won here last year, if you remember as well, but he still had to fight his way through the pack, did Nick Cassidy, and he'll be hoping for a strong result in this qualifying session. Where was he last year on the grid, Nick Cassidy? He was 9th on the grid.
Tictum's done a good first sector there, Tom. Jake Hughes has not done a good sector, so McLaren and Jake Hughes, they could be in a bit of trouble unless he digs it out for the rest of the lap. Jean-Eric Verne is improving as well.
Yeah, these are the set times now begin to come in. On board we ride here with Tictum as he aims it through to back. It's looking good here so far for Tictum. Personal best sector times. Cassidy not far behind Tictum on the road, and he's now improving also in the second sector as Tictum takes a lot of the sausage curve on the inside. Checker flag is out, so this will be the final flying laps for a lot of drivers. Tictum down in 10th place. What is it going to be for him as he makes his way through Anthony Nose? Can it be a position into the duels, or is he just going to miss out? Let's see as the British driver comes to the timing line. He doesn't improve. He goes 10th fastest. That's a big disappointment for Dan Tictum. Cassidy goes to the top of the pile, though, by 2.5 of a second in the Jaguar. Pressure was on, and he has delivered exactly when he needed to do. What about Sebastian Buemi then? 2nd fastest in the Envision. Jaguar powertrain's working very well here. Now it's Jean-Eric Verne who is on the bubble, but on a personal best in the first sector. Hughes misses out, though. The pole sitter here from 12 months ago does not make it through. Verne, he goes 3rd quickest, puts Mortara onto the bubble now then as well. And Van Dorn here, Karun, also on a flyer.
Van Dorn on a good lap here. He's the 10th up in the first 2 sectors. We'll see, and he does go to the top of the time. That's the fastest we've seen all day at 30.59. Very strong from Stoffel Vandoorne, a former winner here, of course, and a former champion.
Jake Dennis doesn't look like he's going to be improving. He might make some positions up, but I don't think he's going to get himself into the duels here. It could be disaster for Andretti as we ride on board with Mortara. Nothing to write home about in any of the sectors at all.
He did say he can't improve.
Yeah,
and
he was right.
True to his word, yeah.
Personal best sectors coming in for Deruvla and for Fenestraz here as well. Could there be a late twist in the tail as Mortara comes to the line? It is 5th fastest, the best position he can hope for. Deruvla goes up 5th quickest as well, just misses out on a place in the duels. Hughes goes into 8th. It's not a good day at the office for the Neon McLaren team. Both drivers out in Group B, and crucially, the reigning world champion, Jake Dennis, balance issues all day. And unfortunately, it has cost him a place here in the duels.
Wow, 9th for Dennis. That is a huge disappointment.
Oh, delight for Jaguar, disappointment for Dennis.
And Hughes and McLaren. I mean, Barnard didn't improve on that last lap. I think McLaren missed a trick there. I think they could have benefited from just sending him out to do more laps. I think he would have gained more from just driving around and around and around and learning. And he's ended up, unsurprisingly, at the bottom of the times, but I think he could have been closer to the pace if he'd had a couple more goals.
Well, here is Barnard now making his way back in to the pit lane then. After his first qualifying session in Formula E, he concludes it 11th, the slowest of the drivers, 1.7 seconds off the pace, 0.7 of a second adrift from Dan Tickton. But given the fact that he's only had half an hour's worth of track time and he was thrust into that seat at the very last minute this morning, that's a good effort from Taylor Barnard to be still within the mix. And of course, the race this afternoon, anything can happen in Formula E, and it will be good experience for the 19-year-old nonetheless. Actually, when he starts the race this afternoon, he will become the youngest ever Formula E driver to start a race. So, confirmation of Group B then, progressing forwards into the duels. Stoffel Vandoorne, Nick Cassidy, Sebastian Buemi and Jean-Eric Vergne. So the 2 DS Penske's making it through. Jehad Deruvla improved at the end of the session, but just misses out ahead of Edo Mortara, who reached his ceiling right before the end, ahead of Fenestraz. And then it's a quartet of Britons, Hughes, Dennis, Ticktum, Barnard, in 8th to 11th place at the end of those Group B qualifying stages as we get ready for the duels. Well, there we are then. That brings an end to the group qualifying stages, and it sets us up for the duels, an absolute treat. Here is Jean-Eric Vergne making his way through the swimming pool chicane. Just managed to sneak in at the end of that session. Sebastian Buemi, he'll be pleased actually to make it into the duels for a first time in a long time. He's had a difficult time during qualifying over the course of this season so far, has Sebastian Buemi. So this is a real opportunity for him to try and right some of those wrongs. Stoffel Vandoorne as well in the DS Penske. That car is looking pretty handy over the course of this Monaco circuit. So opportunity knocks here for DS Penske with the new recruitment of Phil Charles. For them in 2024, is this now where they begin to turn a corner? Nick Cassidy also making it through. Teammate Mitch Evans, as we said, has been on imperious form, but Cassidy has been there and thereabouts. Qualified 9th here last year, made up a lot of places during the race and eventually went on to take victory. Hopefully he'll give himself a bit of an easier time of things this afternoon for the E-Prix. Strong qualifying will help his cause. As this man here, I'm sure will be keeping his helmet on and will not be wanting to make any pleasantries at all. Jake Dennis out of qualifying again in the group stages. Incidentally, he's only made it through to the duels twice this year, and on those 2 occasions he was in Group A. This time he was in Group B, so I don't want to call it a curse, but certainly the bad luck in Group B continues for Dennis, unfortunately. Don't forget to scan the QR code, top left-hand corner of your screen. The Formula E Predictor app will open after that, and then you can choose who of the drivers in the duels you think is going to progress forwards. Of course, in the duels, circumstances do change. No longer is it a free-for-all and a session that's timed. We have drivers going out head-to-head against one another over the course of 1 flying lap, and then whoever is fastest over the course of that lap will progress forward into the next stages. So we start off with the quarterfinals and 4 sets of 2 drivers. Then we go into the semi-finals and 2 sets of 2 drivers, and then of course we go into the finals with 1 set of 2 drivers, and they will go head-to-head in that front row fight for position here for round 8. Lovely to see Monaco looking so resplendent in the sunshine as we look at the DS Penske garage and Stoffel Vandoorne making his way out. I was just wondering who that was there, because the 2 drivers have obviously got unique liveries on their car this weekend, but also, crucially, have got very similar helmet designs, which makes it even more difficult for us in the commentary box here to mark the two out. Anyway, just under 10 minutes to go until we get the group qualifying stages, the dual qualifying stages underway here in Monaco. Very much looking forward to seeing who is going to progress forwards. Up first, it'll be Max Günther versus Pascal Wehrlein in the sunshine here in the Principality.
Right, so there we have it. Groups A and B completed in qualifying today in Monaco. We've relocated to a slightly more bird's eye view of the pit lane, James. DC, you're with me as well. It was an interesting qualifying session for Groups A and B. Going to start with Mitch Evans, though, James. You touched on just the way his car looks and how confident he's looking.
I mean, his car looks as confident as he does. I mean, we were just watching at the chicane there, and when he takes the curb, the car's just so settled. He looks so good today. I mean, topping every free practice, topping his group. He's on fire.
Yeah, he's looking good. Another man that just continues to impress, DC. We watched him over in Italy take a win. Pascal Wehrlein gets himself into those duels again. Just looking great in that Porsche.
Yeah, he's man and machine, perfect harmony. He's just systematically going about his job, very confident. I've got to say, Da Costa got closer to him than he has done of late, but nonetheless, he's still clearly the team leader there.
Oliver Rowland not making it. He's been trending in the right direction over the last couple of weeks. Is it a big shock, or is it just one of those situations where this track is very specific to people's driving styles?
It is a big shock, especially as Nissan powertrain was so strong last year. They were the top 3 cars on the grid last year. Not making it at all, I think, with any of their powertrains into the duels is a bit of a shock, yes.
Yeah. I think we're all a little bit shocked by it. We'll see if we can come back a little bit later on now. But now we can head to Karun, who's got some analysis from the qualifying session.
Yeah, thank you, JJ. Two of the biggest disappointments, really, I think, are the drivers second and third in the championship at the moment. Oliver Rowland in Group A ended up 9th. Jake Dennis in Group B ended up 9th. So let's take a look at Rowland's lap, because his first 2 sectors were up, actually. But you could see as he came through to back, his hands seesawing at the wheel a little bit there. I'll just slow it down as we get into the second bar swimming pool. It just doesn't seem to have the car and the grip underneath him to confidently attack the entries. Coming up to Raskas, again the car squirming around, under braking. But just watch as we come up to Anthony Nose, the last corner here. He gets a big snap of oversteer at the apex. That would have put him wide on that curb, but also would have compromised the way he picked up the throttle and really cost him time on the run up to the line. So I think that there cost him at the end. I don't know if it would have been enough to get in the duels, but he certainly lost out. Now, Jake Dennis's middle sector wasn't great on the last lap, and I wonder if having that car in front was a bit of a distraction for him. I think it was Sasha Fenestras, but was just going on board here as he's attacking the curbs and he's on all the right bits of the track, but it just didn't happen for him in those slowest corners. It just didn't seem like in that middle sector he was able to unlock the grip and performance he needed. Let's go have a look at the braking for the chicane before we go back up to commentary here. And it's decent braking stability, but for whatever reason, Jake Dennis just didn't have the performance he needed from that Andretti car to progress. And both of them, as I said, have ended up 9th on the grid.
Yeah, thank you very much, Karun. He did some analysis there, obviously, on Oliver Rowland's qualifying there. Over in Italy, big disappointment, that final lap. Where he runs out of energy. How does he kind of get his mind into a place of positivity going in today, especially given off the back of that disappointment just now?
I think the whole team were in shock. I mean, it was a software error ultimately that led to him running out of energy at the wrong point on the final lap. But to pick yourself back up from that when you've got such a run of good form going and you're leading the championship, and then to be just have that win taken away from you almost because of a mistake, it's painful for the whole team.
Yeah, it is indeed. Right, we've got the duels coming up very soon, and I think Nicky is with someone special who knows a thing or two about knocking people out.
Always brings the glitz and the glam, and well, there is one guy here who needs no introduction at all. Anthony Joshua, it is an absolute pleasure to welcome you here to the Formula E race in Monaco. How's it going?
All good, thank you for having me, and thank you for that warm welcome.
Should have worn my heels. So you're in the Nissan garage. What have you been doing? I saw you earlier giving a few boxing tips to the team.
Yes, but the main focus is Formula E, not boxing today. But I spoke to the team. I'm learning, understanding how the track works, understanding how the actual, not the engine, but the motor of the car works. All cars are identically the same. The steering is a lot easier as well, lighter, so they can pick up a lot more speed, and how the qualifying systems work. I'm just honoured to watch these amazing athletes do their job, really.
Now, we're in the garage of Oliver Rowland, who's just missed out on going through to the duels. Are you going to be able to give him some words of encouragement to pick him up ahead of the race, like you do? We saw you doing it at the marathon.
I don't think there's anything, I don't think there's anything that I can do. But he knows more than me, but we're here supporting him, so I hope he feeds off our energy. Everyone at home, everyone here tonight, well, today, everyone here today, I hope he feeds off their energy and he goes, and they both go out there and do a good job.
Anthony Joshua, thank you so much. Enjoy your first Formula E experience. Cheers.
Yeah, he already sounds like he knows his stuff, AJ, around Formula E. So let's get into Group B quickly. You noticed something a bit particular about this, the four drivers who finished top of the group.
They've all won the race here in Formula E. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be exciting. Clearly, the cream has risen to the top. We're going to see some amazing action in the duels. You've got 4 winners going head-to-head, so yeah, it's going to be good.
I think it was Stoffel Van Dorn who was quickest out of the lot. An impressive lap he put together.
Yeah, great news for DS Penske. I mean, they were last on the grid last year. They actually got disqualified from qualifying, started the race 21st to 22nd. Amazing lap from Stoffel. It was the fastest lap we've seen all weekend, as Karun touched on. Yeah, I mean, clearly there's more potential in that DS car than we've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of Pascal Wehrlein in the duels. Another man we usually see in the duels, Jake Dennis. But, I mean, I would say big shock. You had a bit of a different reaction, though, when we spoke about it with Jake Dennis.
I don't think he needs to do qualifying. He finds his way to the front every race. I mean, he's a man that loves the podium, and I'm confident we're going to see him come through later on today.
Any predictions ahead of these quarterfinals? Anyone that you think really is looking like a favourite?
I'm really excited to watch what's going to happen. I think, you know, anyone's in with a shot. The 2 Jaguars look great, obviously, with Cassidy now catching up to Mitch. And then, you know, having Van Dorn up there doing the fast lap of the weekend, I'm excited to see if he and Jev can get on the top step as well.
All right, well, we've got it all to look forward to now in the duels coming up. And to enjoy it all with us, we've got David Coulthard, Tom Brooks and Karun Chandok.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, JJ. Looking forward to getting this back underway then for the duels of round 8 here in the Principality of Monaco. It is going to be hugely exciting to see who will emerge on top, who will progress forward from the quarters into the semis, and then who subsequently will end up in the finals and that front row fight. Maximilian Günther versus Pascal Wehrlein first up, then it's Antonio Felix da Costa and Mitch Evans. Then it'll be an all-Jaguar power-trained third quarterfinal with Sebastian Buemi in the Envision ahead of Nick Cassidy. And then we've got the 2 DS Penske going head-to-head. Penny for the thoughts of Jay Penske going into this one. Jean-Eric Vergne versus Stoffel Van Dorn. So then the sunshine is out, just under a couple of minutes left to go as we get ready for this one to take place. Pascal Wehrlein versus Maximilian Günther. Wehrlein has been in imperious form so far in 2024. In terms of his qualifying, he's got the best average starting position of about 4th place on the grid this year. Can he continue that form here, though, this weekend? Maximilian Günther, we know that Günther is in the duels for the 6th time this year as well. And don't forget about that Formula E Predictor app on the left-hand side of your screen. Scan it and tell us out of these 2 drivers who you think is going to progress forwards and then also into the next stages of the quarterfinals. Here is Pascal Wehrlein then, joint championship leader with Jake Dennis, both on 89 points apiece coming into this weekend. But we saw Dennis not making it through out of the group stages of qualifying. So he is going to have a difficult task ahead of him here for the E-Prix this afternoon. Wehrlein then comes to the end of pit lane behind Maximilian Günther. And here is Mad Max then ready to take to the Monaco circuit. So what happens here essentially in the dual stages compared to the group stages of qualifying is we have 50 kilowatts more power than we had during the group stages. It's 1 lap for the drivers. They go out, they do a warm-up lap, then they have 1 flyer, and it's all out for glory to the checkered flag. So then, ready to go as we wait for the green light to come up the end of pit lane. Maximilian Günther versus Pascal Wehrlein between the Maserati and the Tag Heuer Porsche. 70% of you think it's going to go the way of Pascal Wehrlein. And, well, given his prowess so far this year, as I said, David, you know, average starting position of 4th on the grid, you'd be hard to bet against him.
Yeah, he's been Mr. Consistency. What tyres would they have run out of the 2 sets they have available? Would this be the first set from the previous session, so they've had more time to cool?
You tend to alternate it as you go through it, because obviously if they get through this, then they'll need to use a different set for the semis and potentially a different set for the finals. So you just alternate between the two to try and cool particularly the rear tyres down. And that's a challenge we heard on the radio. It was one of the engineers earlier, isn't it, about keeping heat in the fronts and making sure that that has still got energy in it while bringing the rear temperatures down in between laps. But of course, as Tom was just saying, on this one, it is just 1 lap.
Yeah. What sort of wear would they see? Because my very distant memory of racing with groove tyres, and certainly a full, let's say, full weather tyre like this, the more the tyre wore and the gauge got smaller, you then put less heat in it, so you can control the heat a bit better. But of course, you then didn't have the heating. You wouldn't warm the tyre as much because you didn't have the block moving. So what sort of wear patterns are we looking at?
It would be less than I think what you're thinking of, because this is, of course, an all-weather tyre that also needs to go the whole day. You know, you have to have done practice, and then you come into quali and the race. You'll choose your best set for the race. So they're not particularly soft, because they have to wear, you know, they have to last the whole time.
Would Taylor Barnard have picked up Sam Bird's practice tyres?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
Yeah, it's decided on the car for that one. So just going back to Günther versus Wehrlein here, we've seen these two going head-to-head in the duels with each other so far this year. If you look back to, when was it, Sao Paulo, Wehrlein won the semi-final on that occasion. Günther won the quarter-final against Wehrlein in Tokyo. So building themselves up now to this flying lap through Anthony Oaks and aiming for the timing line. Günther, of course, will come across the line first into the braking zone of Sandoval. You can really sort of make or break the lap here in this first corner. We've seen a few drivers coming a cropper. Looks all okay there for Günther.
Yeah, a bit of bouncing on the front axle as you're going through the braking phase. But yeah, I think this is sort of corner where you want to spot your braking in a good solid position, but if you can get early on the power for the drive up the hill and into Casino Square, then that's where you really will gain much more. But tentative through the first left-hand part of Casino Square.
Yeah, I thought that he didn't really seem to attack it as much as you would have expected. Wehrlein, a slightly wider line on the way in, and has carried more momentum. We could see him in the bottom right corner. And if a look at the lap time, you can see he's nearly 2/10 up on Günther's lap here.
Yeah, Günther losing a little bit of time in that first sector, and now just continuing to build now is Wehrlein as he makes his way through the Grand Hotel hairpin. A little bit of a wider line compared to Günther, not using as much curb over the left.
By the time you're going through the tunnel, catching your breath, he'll have his own in-lap delta, car delta, so he'll know that this, you know, isn't a particularly great lap relative to where he's been, and you know you're running out of time to try and win it back. So there's a couple of corners where you can really try and throw the car into the chicane here and then into Raskas, but it just doesn't look like he's got the confidence.
No, he didn't use all the road either as he came through swimming pool 1, which is fine for the first part, but it means that you've got a shallower entry for the second part. I think that's compromised him again. So he's ended up quite some way behind, hasn't he? Nearly 4/10, 30.4 for Günther, but I think Wehrlein's going to get into the 29s here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite close here for Wehrlein to make it into those 29s. Let's see what it looks like as he comes to the timeline. It's a 29.886. He built out a lot of time in that final sector. Pascal Wehrlein and Porsche progress forward into the semi-finals then.
I don't know if you noticed that the cone that's normally at the back was not there in free practice, but it's now back there during these qualifying sessions. I think the drivers must have pointed out. I noticed when I went round in the safety car this morning, and we'll maybe get an image of that later so we can share it with the audience at home. But there's a cone at the top of the final corner, and also as you come into the second portier for the tunnel, it helps the drivers spot where the barrier is.
See Wehrlein here just going over the curbs at the swimming pool. Good lap time then for Pascal. He's only got to do another 2 of those, and he'll be in the fight for pole position. But it's to the other Porsche now for quarterfinal 2. Antonio Felix da Costa versus Mitch Evans. And, well, given the form that we've seen of Mitch Evans so far this weekend, 81% of you think it'll go the way of the Kiwi. No surprise there at all. You can see da Costa there scrubbing those front tyres, using a lot of lock, almost like a wet karting technique on slicks there to try and push some heat into the tyres.
We haven't seen much of da Costa in the duels this season, have we? So It is good to see him up there, but he's going to be up against it because Mitch Evans has been absolutely the in-form driver so far today. Quickest in free practice 2, quickest in Group A qualifying. But here goes Da Costa, starting off his laptop.
Yeah, last time we saw Da Costa in the duels was back in Portland in 2023. This is his first duel appearance so far this year.
It seems that since he's been put under a bit of pressure by his team, he's picked up his performances. A win that was taken away in Misano, and he's been a lot closer to Verline in the first part of qualifying.
So what we've done now here is we've slowed down these 2 laps. We've done an onboard comparison of side by side, so we can look at the laps. Da Costa here on the left-hand side, Evans on the right as they make their way up through Beau Rivage in towards Casino Square. We can see the difference in lines between the two. A bit tighter on the entry, slightly later apex there for Evans.
He's just got more confidence to attack the high speed around there. And I was saying before, you know, it sounds a bit unusual perhaps to traditional fans of motorsport, but this is actually one of the faster tracks in Formula E terms of corner speeds and the flow of it and the track layout. It's actually one of the higher average speeds for the calendar.
Yeah, you can see Evans a lot tighter. He's just taking less distance around the racetrack. There's a good sort of 10 centimetre gap between Da Costa's inside tyre and the barrier everywhere that they've been apexing.
So Da Costa makes his way through. Evans, though, building out that advantage even more. It was 0.3 of a second in the first sector. It's up to nearly half a second in this second sector. That's a fortnight in Formula E turns as they come through the swimming pool section. And you can see Evans just so much confidence on the front end of that Jaguar. Just seems to be completely on song. A lot more tentative for Da Costa as they make their way through into the final series of corners. Evans building out more of that advantage now as they aim to the timing line. What's it going to be for Da Costa? It's 1:30.3 and it's a 1:29.7 there for Mitch Evans. That is the fastest lap we've seen throughout the weekend so far.
And crucially, Da Costa's time there, 30.3, half a second off what we saw from Fairline just a few minutes ago, wasn't it? So that's quite a big gap between the 2 Porsches there.
Certainly is a sizable margin. You can see here over the curbs for Mitch Evans. See the understeer is picking up through that left-hander. Brings him onto that curb quite nastily on the right-hand side.
Car seems to ride it well, though.
Well then, over to quarter-final 3, and we shift to the 2 Jaguar-powered cars on the grid. The Envision and, of course, the factory Jaguar. Sebastian Buemi versus Nick Cassidy. And given how the factory team have been so far this weekend, 80% of you reckon it will go the way of Nick Cassidy, the winner from here 12 months ago.
They were former teammates, of course. As we see, Buemi, he's ahead of Da Costa's on his way into the pits here. So, you know, ignore. This isn't an actual battle for anything. He's going to pull into the pits and go the way. Buemi now winding himself up. They were teammates last year at Envision before Cassidy joined Jaguar Racing, and but Sebastian Buemi, God, he's got some experience around this place, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's won here a couple of times, and let's not forget Envision with their driver lineup here this year. They're only 8th in the championship standings in the team's title race. A bit of a rudderless ship so far. Since Cassidy has left, they've been sort of not on the form that we saw for them throughout 2023. They need a strong weekend here in Monaco to try and bounce back, and Buemi trying to lead that charge for the team, with Freights not making it out of the group stages. We'll be right here with Cassidy making his way up through a little bit of an oversteer on the exit there. It was a Sandoval, but otherwise okay. Through into Casino Square. Cassidy with the advantage in the first sector, seemingly 26.5 for Buemi. What's it going to look like for Cassidy as he comes through?
Oh, it's a bit closer there. Only just over 10. So Buemi's had a pretty good run. Cassidy went deep, I think, on the hairpin. He had a second bite of the steering wheel down at the Fairmont hairpin. So I'll be interested to see as this. Yeah, it's cost him time. Look, he's now behind Buemi. That mistake happened down at the hairpin, and we'll see if he could recover it.
Well, I think, sorry, it was in the small image at the bottom of the screen, but I think he touched the barrier as well coming out of Casino Square.
He was certainly close, wasn't he? Let's have a look as we look at Buemi. Cassidy's been trying to pull it back. Will it be brilliance from Buemi, or will it be curtains for Cassidy as we come through the final series of corners for the Envision driver? Buemi losing a bit more time now compared to Cassidy through Anthony Noakes and aiming for the timing line. Nice and tidy through there, gets some promising exits. Cassidy just making his way around the final corner now as well. 1:30.1 for Sebastian Buemi. Cassidy, though, building out that advantage. He's had a good second sector here. He's been able to pull the lap time back over Buemi. As he now comes to the line, it's at 29.8. That is a very, very fast lap time so far. Just under 0.07 of a second off of the time that we saw from teammate Mitch Evans a few moments ago. So both Jaguars through into the semis. And there is Phil Ingram, race engineer for Nick Cassidy, and there is the forlorn face of Sylvain Filippi, team principal for Envision. Let's have a look at Nick Cassidy here. A few mistakes we saw on that lap. This wasn't one of them. This was going through the chicane. Team radio.
I want to swear, like a good way, but I'm being calm.
Swear in a good way.
I'm sure as racing drivers, you've probably had to come up with a few of those over your time.
I don't think I was a big swearer.
That's probably a good thing, to be fair. Anyway, two DS Penske's in quarter-final four. Jean-Eric Verne versus Stoffel Van Dorn. 48% of you reckon it will go the way of Jev. 52% for Stoffel Van Dorn. Those two have been pretty evenly matched over the course of this weekend so far. Special livery on their car here this weekend as well, in homage to this beautiful Monaco circuit. A lot more black with fewer gold accents on the livery. So look at Buemi just making his way back into the pit lane. And Jev making his way to the timing line to begin his one and only flying lap in this session. So down the start finish straight, in towards Sandoval we go. What's it going to be looking like there? It's a bit wide almost on the apex. I think he could have taken a bit more curve there for my money on the right.
He's had the upper hand throughout the season, hasn't he, Jev, over Van Dorn? Stoffel's not really managed to put a proper campaign together as yet, and just seemed again a bit tentative on the way in, on the brakes, didn't seem to carry the sort of confidence in. Jev now into Mirabo, gets the nose
Very
in, a bit
wide.
deep, yeah.
Yeah, that would have cost him some time. Looks like he just got a really big camber down into the apex, and looks like he slipped out over the top of that.
Well, whatever happens here, this will be best qualifying of the year in terms of, well, it's the best qualifying at Monaco for the last couple of years, actually, for the DS Penske team. They were 21st and 22nd on the grid here 12 months ago, so for both of them to make it through into the duels is promising, but which of them, out of Van Dorn and Verne, will be progressing forwards?
Wow, big gap there. I think that's an error we saw, wasn't it, David, down Mirabo, and we see in the bottom right corner, Van Dorn's now come through that middle part where that time would reflect, and nearly half a second.
Yeah, looking good here so far is Van Dorn. Verne makes his way through the swimming pool, unless Van Dorn makes a mistake. I reckon that he is going to be able to clean up with this one. Yeah, Verne is catching. Yeah, he's catching, but it's not going to be enough, unfortunately, here for Jean-Eric Verne. Going for the line then for the Frenchman, the double Formula E champion. It's a 1:30.1. Not the quickest lap time by any stretch of the imagination. Van Dorn's lost a little bit of time coming through that second sector, a little bit wide on the exit of Anthony Nogues there as well. That might have cost him half a tenth of a second or so, but he still does go quickest by only just a tenth of a second, considering he had half a second partway through that lap. That's a fair amount of time that he dropped.
Yeah, I think Verne, it was his lap that he lost, rather than Van Dorn having outperformed him. He just kept it tidy. But Verne a bit too aggressive down at Mirabo, and it cost him.
So missing 3/10, aren't they, compared to the likes of Evans, and I think there's a good chance we could end up with a Jaguar final here. It's a big weekend for Jaguar Racing. They've announced they're staying in Formula E until 2030, into the Gen 4 era of the sport. They've got a lot of guests here on a big boat out in the harbour.
Yeah, very impressive.
And they could have both their drivers in the final here in the qualifying.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you ever need to do an impressive result, is when you've got most of your guests here. I remember when nearly all of the board of Daimler came to watch the Grand Prix in ~96, and my teammate at the time, Mika Häkkinen, and I both crashed in the first lap.
But you could have just said that you were Michael Schumacher because you had his helmet on that weekend, right?
Yeah, actually it wasn't '96, that's a good point. I finished second, that was '97.
Anyway, over to the semi-finals then. It will be Pascal Wehrlein versus Mitch Evans, Porsche versus Jaguar, and then Van Dorn in the DS Penske versus the second Jaguar of Nick Cassidy. We say goodbye to Gunther, to Da Costa, to Buemi, to Verne from those quarter-final sessions. So two lots of drivers coming up for you in the semi-finals. Looking forward to seeing which of them will progress forwards in that front row fight here this morning. Well, the sunshine is out. A few clouds still overhead, but the threat of rain that we had a little bit earlier on this morning when it was looking a bit grey and gloomy seems to have gone away. What do you reckon? You know the weather around here a bit better than most, David.
Yeah, you do get local weather patterns hanging behind the hills in La Turbie. But that was a beautiful image there that showed the hillside rising up, the Mediterranean. It reminds me of my art project that I did at school, which got me through my art
You
exam.
still got it?
Yeah, just did a big splash of blue, a big splash of green, a big splash of yellow. Wasn't much into detail, but it was enough to capture the imagination of whoever the art teacher was that was marking our scores.
Is it hanging on the wall of Coulthard Towers somewhere?
I probably gave it to my mum, and she dutifully kept it somewhere back up in Scotland.
Stick that in the museum, that's what I'd have done.
Yeah.
Formula E predictor as well, top left-hand corner of your screen. Don't forget about that. Scan the QR code and see out of these two semi-finals of Verline and Evans and Van Dorn versus Cassidy, which of them you think is going to make it through. This man will not be going further forwards. That is Jean-Eric Vergne. As we look at some super slow-mos, Pascal Verline.
Oh my God, you could have got a bus up between him and the Armco barrier. Normally, that's a perfect image to see them doing a little French peck, kissing the metal. French kiss would be too much.
just a wee peck.
A wee peck.
And here is Mitch Evans making his way through. Such confidence he's had with that car. Cassidy also not troubling the barrier on the right-hand side there either. He's seen a few mistakes from him over the course of free practice actually as well. He's putting in a flyer at the end of FP2 and missed the apex by a country mile on a couple of occasions.
What's the difference in a country mile and a city mile?
It's a very good question. Any thoughts?
No. One probably has more traffic than the other.
Yes, sure.
Certainly if you do it around here, it'll take you a fortnight to get anywhere. Well then, as we wait for semi-final one, Verline versus Evans, looking forward to seeing which of these two drivers is going to progress forwards. We have seen in the semi-finals recently. Verline actually, of course, was in the semi-final in both of the Mazzano rounds, but he lost them on those occasions. And now he's just going to be sat here in the garage, waiting for a fresh set of boots to go on the car, chatting to his race engineer, and trying to do exactly what he did in the quarterfinals about 5 or 10 minutes ago.
He should do a little bit more, doesn't he? Because the Jaguars look quick. I think Cassidy's lap, he did a 29.8, but we saw a couple of mistakes. So I think there's probably a 29.5, 29.6 in the Jag. So he's going to have to dig deep here, Pascal Verline.
I think that's a key thing, actually, in Monaco. They're so condensed into this one day. It's the person at this level doesn't make a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking here then at Mitch Evans, getting himself ready to go. 29 duels he's won so far. So then, ready to go for semi-final one for round 8 here for the Monaco E-Prix. The fans have flocked in and they are ready to witness who is going to progress forwards from these semi-finals. Not long to go until we get these underway, and it's going to be hugely exciting to see which of the Jaguar versus the Porsche is going to progress forwards. Of course, only one flying lap for the drivers at this stage in the qualifying sessions. An opportunity knocks for a couple as well. So then let's have a look and see how we got to the semi-finals. You can see Maximilian Günther versus Pascal Verline, saw Verline emerging on top. Da Costa versus Evans, saw Evans being the superior driver on that occasion. Cassidy and Van Dorn progressed through from their quarterfinals as well, and that sets us up an absolute treat for the semi-finals. Verline versus Evans first of all, and then Van Dorn versus Cassidy. There's a very realistic possibility, as Corinne said earlier on, we could see two Jags going head-to-head for pole. So then, over to semi-final one, Verline versus Evans then. 72% of you reckon it will go the way of Pascal Verline. No surprise at all, given that Evans has led both practice sessions. He's been on top in the duels as well. And also, to an extent, in the group qualifying stages, he was very quick too. Just waiting for the green light to come on at the end of pit lane here. Verline needs something special here in this lap, doesn't he, to try and pull out the advantage over Mitch Evans?
Yeah, well, they've got all the information that we have and a bit more, so he'll know that Mitch has been supremely confident, and this is going to take a big, dig deep moment. And ultimately, qualifying, it's a journey into the unknown. By definition, you're doing your fastest lap that you have done on this particular day, so they've not been there until a minute and a bit from now.
Yeah, and I think you've got this this situation in FE where the track is getting warmer. The sun has been out for a bit longer than when they were last out there. You've obviously got 2 different sets of tyres, and despite the fact that every manufacturer will tell you that every set is the same, there's always something that feels a bit different, isn't it, David? And just, I don't know, there's always something that feels, one feels better than the other for some reason.
Yeah, even in the sort of tiny engineering differences that you have in the manufacture of a race car, because the quality and the build is way beyond what would be in your normal road car. The tyres ultimately are still sort of hand-built in as much that they're put in a machine by a human. So there are tiny differences, and you feel it. It's this sort of princess in the pea moment, a racing driver. You know, you put a little piece of rice under his seat and he'll complain about it.
I love that psychological battle that racing drivers go through, though, because there was always that story of, you know, drivers coming in wanting to have a change in setup. The team would say, yeah, you know, we've made that change. They go out and they go 0.3 of a second faster or something like that, but they actually hadn't done anything to the car at all.
Yeah, that's always a bit naughty by the team if they just rattle the spanners and send you out. But I guess some people, and I won't say the names, there's famous drivers that have been in Formula 1 where they've been saying, oh, I felt this when I made this adjustment in the cockpit back in the days when there was a lot more systems. And then they'd go, well, that switch isn't actually connected to anything. So, yeah, sometimes I guess it's in the mind.
So then, Wehrlein versus Evans then in the first of the semi-finals. Wehrlein already beginning his flying lap. Evans just about to come across the timing line to start his. And this is going to be even closer than what we saw in the group stages down the quarterfinals, I'm sure. 350 kilowatts of power. Evans with the initial advantage in the first sort of mini sector, but we'll wait for the scores on the doors to come through once Evans comes up through to break the beam at sector 1. 26.3 for Wehrlein. So that's not bad, but we've seen faster so far this weekend. Evans looking okay, though, as we watch the mini on-board with him down on the bottom right-hand corner.
I think Wehrlein's raised his game here. I think Wehrlein's unlocked a bit of speed, because that is a strong lap, start to the lap at least, and certainly stronger than anything we've seen so far today. I think this is going to be closer than we perhaps expected.
Yeah, it's about 0.8 of a second, rather, the advantage that Wehrlein had in that first sector. So now the pressure is on to Mitch Evans. Through the swimming pool section we go here for Wehrlein. Through to the right, then the left, clatters over that curb on the left-hand side. Looks all okay here for Wehrlein.
Oh, Evans has gone deep at the chicane. Evans has cut across chicane, so that should be done now. That lap will not count. He went beyond the track limits there. So Wehrlein just needs to close this out without any mistakes, and he will be through to the final.
29.759 for Pascal Wehrlein. Then Mitch Evans making a mistake on his flying lap. The man who has been so fast. He's led free practice 1, he's led free practice 2, he led in the group stages, but he is not going to progress forward from the semi-finals here in Monaco as he comes around Anthony Nogues to the final corner, to the line. And Evans is going to be out of qualifying, a 30.2. That mistake costing him very dearly, and you can see what it means for Porsche.
That's what DC was saying, wasn't it? The driver who doesn't make mistakes will be the one who gets through.
Well, so it has been. It'll be good to see a replay. It was only on the mini screen there, and Pascal Wehrlein did it when it counted.
Yeah, super slow-mo of him. The car looking nice and compliant over the course of that one.
Yes, you're through, mate. You're through. 4 tenths up, 4 tenths up. Box, focus on your procedure.
So 0.4 of a second, the advantage that Pascal Wehrlein has to progress forwards into the finals. This is the mistake for Evans then.
Just way too quick, wasn't he?
Just trying to bite off a bit more than he can chew. I suppose that's the counteractive thing, isn't it, with attack mode? You actually have to end up braking earlier. And at that point, his heart would have sunk into the Mediterranean Sea around here, I'm sure. So semi-final 2 then. Quick as that, we shift our attention over to Stoffel Van Dorn versus Nick Cassidy. Cassidy was just seen his teammate not making it forwards into the finals. So it is DS Penske versus Jaguar. Pressure is on Stoffel Van Dorn now here to see whether he can depose what has been one of the quickest cars so far this weekend.
Yeah, I think in his mind he'll be, I'm not sure I've got the lap that's going to be necessary unless we see a mistake from Cassidy.
Oh, yeah, he's already made a mistake there coming out of Sandevot there, Van Dorn. He didn't quite pinch that inside curb enough, I think, and that put him a bit wide. Then when he picked up the power, the rear stepped out of line, and that would have hurt his run all the way up the hill towards Casino Square.
on what we ride then with Nick Cassidy in the bottom right corner of your picture. You can see the advantage that Cassidy has already picked up then over Stoffel Vandoorne, courtesy of that mistake, because, as you say, he'd have carried that mistake all the way through to the next series of corners. Down through into Mirabeau, meanwhile, goes Nick Cassidy, as we look at Vandoorne going through Portier. Much tidier exit for him out of there. He's going to have to hope for a stronger second sector at this point, as Cassidy now makes his way through, but still building on that advantage. Manages to get it stopped in time for the Nouvelle chicane.
So just as a reference, 29.7 was the lap time from Pascal Wehrlein in the previous semi-final. We'll see Cassidy now coming through up towards the back as Vandoorne goes into the second part of the swimming pool, and the middle sector again a bit up for Vandoorne.
Yeah, Cassidy's dropping a little time here in this second sector, and it's costing him here. I wonder whether we could see a late flash of pace here for Stoffel Vandoorne. He's had a really good second and third sector of this lap as he comes to the timing line. What is it going to be for Vandoorne? He'll be in the 30s, a 1:30.3. Cassidy looking like he's dropping a little bit of time here as he comes to the timing line. Has he made a mistake? It looks like the car's crabbing. He must have hit the wall somewhere along the line of this lap, and Cassidy is going to be out of qualifying. I thought I saw that on the mini-map just on the bottom right corner of your screen there. It looked like he was crabbing coming in towards to back, and Nick Cassidy making a mistake in that second sector, denying Jaguar a chance at the front row fight here in Monaco. Both Mitch Evans and Nick Cassidy out of qualifying.
Wow. Just as I was saying, we're going to potentially see a Jaguar final. Now we've got neither Jaguar in that final.
It doesn't matter, dude. Doesn't matter. You made it. Good job. Good job. Good job.
The there at the start. So you know how you hear airline pilots and they go through and they say, we're at 40,000 feet today, that sort of thing. So here's what happened to Cassidy. Oh, he clattered the wall on the inside, didn't he?
That's very unusual.
I know, weird place. He's obviously massively over or misjudged the entry to the swimming pool. High-speed chicane.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone touch the wall there.
Yeah, that's a sort of unique status and honour that he didn't really want when it came to that head-to-head.
So then, semi-finals are done and dusted. Wehrlein and Vandoorne make it through into the finals for round 8 here in Monaco. This is going to be an absolute treat. Very much looking forward to seeing which of these two drivers is going to end up on pole position here for the E-Prix this afternoon. Two mistakes from Evans and Cassidy costing them a chance in the finals. So then, what a dramatic conclusion to qualifying we've had in terms of the semi-finals at least, but there's still one more part of it to go, and that is the finals. Well, this is going to be hugely exciting to see what happens as you see all the yachts moored in the harbour here in the Principality. Coulthard's is probably in there somewhere, isn't it, I would imagine? Have you got one there, Karun, as well?
Yeah, the little rubber dinghy. See that there? Just the, bottom right of the screen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good to know.
You need to row yourself as well. It doesn't have a motor on it.
One of those. This is Nick Cassidy. This is the mistake he made. So going into back. So let's see what happened here. Going through the chicane.
Oh.
I think he clapped the wall on the left, didn't he, on the way in?
I'd like to see it again if he touched the wall there.
Or was it earlier in the lap that he made the mistake?
That's what I mean. I wonder if he's done it. Because he did hit the wall there on the right, so he continues to be amongst everybody else who's not hit the wall on the right. He's hit it somewhere else.
That was the most horrible lap that I ever drove. Yeah, I think he struggled towards the end of the lap, so...
Well, most horrible lap, but it got him through.
Yeah, let's hope then he can just drive a nice lap and see if he can take it to Wehrlein. But money would be on Wehrlein to secure the pole.
I tell you what, Mitch Evans will be angrier than a mosquito in a mannequin factory after that lap, I'd have thought, because given the pace he's shown so far this weekend, right when it mattered, making that mistake, it's going to be quite deflating, isn't it?
What if it was a vegetarian mosquito? He'd be quite happy.
There's no tofu in a mannequin factory, is there?
Well, he doesn't make it through. There is James Barclay, team principal for Jaguar TCS Racing. He's got a smile on his face regardless. They were entertaining on the yacht last night in front of a lot of sponsors and guests. I actually got invited down, but such as the early start that we had here in Monaco, I didn't manage to make it in the end.
It's very disciplined of you.
It's probably for the best, though, to be honest with you, given how things can end up.
Would we have lost you if you'd gone out in Monaco?
Yeah, I'd have ended up on the yacht somewhere, not knowing my way back in. It was a challenge enough with all the roads closed this morning.
Wake up in Corsica.
Not for the first time. So Verline then versus Van Dorn for the finals. I mean, given the pace that we've seen from Verline so far this season, he's been the best qualifier in 2024, Corinne. You'd be hard to bet against him, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and listen, he's going to end up on the front row of the grid either way. His two closest championship rivals are going to end up on the 9th row of the grid. He's at a good position anyway.
Absolutely. Well, finals coming along the way in a couple of moments then. So then, Mitch Evans just making his way back through into the Jaguar garage. Of course, due to the unique quirks of the Monaco circuit, the team upstairs, essentially. And they've got a bit of a hospitality area there in Jaguar as well, to entertain some guests. Gives you a lovely view of the harbour. Lovely coffee as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
You've been?
I had a little wander around earlier, you know. Might as well enjoy the advantages of being here in Monaco, eh?
Yeah, normally you have to take a bike ride, or you can drive, or take a helicopter, or take your boat, depending on what you've got. But I take a bike ride to just over the border into Italy to get good coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Or great coffee, actually.
Great, yeah, I was going to say, yeah. It wouldn't be bad coffee in Italy, would it?
No.
A couple of minutes to go until the finals begin then. And looking forward to this one. So now the final preparations taking place. Here is Pascal Verline. He'll just, again, be talking to his engineer. You can see their last round results. That's back in Misano. 3rd on the grid it was for him. Won the race. Scored a maximum of 26 points after getting the fastest lap as well. And, of course, you know, he wasn't on for that victory until it came down to the final lap. That miscalculation by Nissan, meaning that Roland retired on the final lap and Verline was there ready to pick up the pieces.
Or had they just calculated it right? And clearly they had, compared to Roland and Nissan, right? No, it's not Roland's fault. It's the team who do the calculations that they got it a lap wrong. So my point is, if they had calculated it right, Roland wouldn't have been able to go that quickly anyway. He only went that quickly because he was using an extra lap of energy.
Good point, well made. Well then, Van Dorn and Verline then making their way to the exit of pit lane. Let's see how we got here, though, for the duels of round 8. So we had Gunter and Verline. Verline made it through. De Costa and Evans. Evans made it through. Buemi and Casti. Casti made it through. And then Vernon Van Dorn. And Van Dorn made it through. Out of the two semi-finals, Verline versus Van Dorn progressed forwards. The two Jaguars both making mistakes. Evans' lap time there, of course, disallowed in the semis as he exceeded track limits. And Casti, as we know, clattered into the barrier, damaged his car, and no Jaguars on the front row of the grid. So then, in terms of the Formula E predictor for the finals here in Monaco, this is how it looks. In terms of Verline versus Van Dorn, you can see head-to-head they've gone together 4 times. 80% of you reckon it'll go the way of the German driver. The only double winner so far in 2024 as well is Pascal Verline, after winning the first round of the season in Mexico and, of course, the most recent round in Misano as well. But as we know, anything can happen, and the driver who makes the fewest mistakes will be the one who secures pole position. So Van Dorn, green light on, exits out of pit lane and onto the circuit here in Monte Carlo. It's just a fantastic track, this. You'd pick it up and put it in the middle of Grimsby if you particularly wanted to, and it would still shine out, wouldn't it?
I've never been to Grimsby. Is it nice?
Lovely. No, I really like Grimsby. Yeah, not after Blackpool last week. I've done Blackpool, I've done Brides. I'm not offending anybody else this week.
I'm just glad you've not travelled much north of the border, because you're not calling out any of the Scottish towns and cities.
I'm probably not allowed to. I've probably been banned already, DC, to be honest.
It is a great track, coming back to your point. The elevation change, the fact that it's largely unchanged since its inception, you know, a little bit of tidying up round about the swimming pool and Rascasse and things like that, but otherwise what you see is what they got way back. When was the first race here? Was it 1916? Something like that? Not in Formula 1 terms, but in just motor race terms.
Yeah, I think so, isn't it? I think I also like the fact that, apart from that, actually, that right-hander in the tunnel, every corner, there's value in terms of lap time. You know, you can't. They're not these sort of no-brainer corners where you see every driver can get through it at the same sort of speed. You really have to think about gaining or potentially losing at every single corner around this track, I think.
Yeah, and it's mentally, it's like a hustling, isn't it? You've got to hustle, hustle, hustle. It's relentless, this place, when you drive it. And actually, just to correct my point there, it was 1929, the first motor race here, I believe, because there's a big sign that I saw in the back shot. It's at Monaco since 1929.
Well then, Stoffel Vandoorne comes across the timing line to begin his one and only flying lap in this session. Verline a little way down the road. Let's see what Sainte Devote looks like here for Vandoorne. Made a mistake in the semi-finals a couple of moments ago. All okay though as he comes up the climb through Beau Rivage and in towards Casino Square. Verline bottom right of your picture. Pitching the car, but okay.
Yeah, Vandoorne squirming about a little bit as he got to that first part of the left-hander Hotel de Paris. As it now drops downhill into Mirabeau. Verline looks like he's had a cleaner run through Casino Square, and he's a 10th and a half up.
Yeah, you can see Vandoorne tidy enough around the hairpin, but again, the body language of the car just doesn't look as assertive with his positioning. Not far away from Verline. Certainly, it's recoverable in the next phase of the lap should Verline start to run out of confidence, but it looks like it's building.
Yeah, he's looking good so far then. At the moment is Pascal Verline. 2 pole positions he's taken so far this year, 1 in Mexico, 1 in Sao Paulo. Can he make it a third of the season? Vandoorne is going to have to really dig deep in order to try and find it through the swimming pool chicane. It's a tidy lap here for Vandoorne, but it's just not quite as fast as Verline's at the moment.
It's actually closer than what I thought it could be. So, as you say, tidy lap from Vandoorne, but let's see, final couple of corners. There is a reasonable amount of time in there if you really ace it.
Vandoorne then aims for the beam. To the timing line it comes, the Belgian driver, a 1:30.304. It's going to be surely a 1:29 here for Verline if he gets Anthony Nogues okay. It's a little bit wide on the curb on the exit, but otherwise all good. And Verline takes pole. It's a 1:29.861. It's Porsche on pole in Monaco. The last time they were on pole, believe it or not, was back in 1986 as an engine supplier for McLaren when Alain Prost took top honours back then. So history being made here for Porsche in the Principality. Pascal Verline, a 3rd pole position of the season as well.
Pole position, baby. Conacoliu, Mr. Fortens.
Allez, let's go!
And 3 points in the bag.
Well, confirming there, 3 points in the bag for Pascal Verline and for Tag Heuer Porsche. A perfect start to their weekend here in Monte Carlo. 1:29.861, not the quickest lap time that we've seen so far this weekend, but nonetheless, right when it mattered, Verline was able to come up trumps. He put it all on red, and fortunately, it paid off for him. And he can cash that out quite nicely coming into the E-Prix this afternoon, as Pascal Verline rounds the way through, and we'll be catching up with him. Another Julius Baer pole position trophy for him and for Tag Heuer Porsche to take home this weekend as well. There is Florian Modlinger, team principal, as he goes and congratulates the team, and will make his way down to the Parc Fermé area.
I was perfectly executed, mate. Perfectly executed.
Beautifully done. Precision driving from Pascal as he makes his way into the weighbridge. He'll be pretty pleased with that. Of course, he starts on the clean side of the grid, has a clear view down towards the first corner. But we know how it can be in Monaco, especially in Formula E as well. One of the few races where you can get a good amount of overtaking in this category here in the Principality. And there's every possibility that we could see fireworks in the opening few laps, and I'm sure, as is the way often in FE, right up until the checkered flag as well. But there is Pascal then. Fantastic job from him. Last time out in Misano, he was on the 2nd row of the grid. Now he's 2 places ahead with that pole position. Also for Diaz Penske as well, it's their first ever front row start in Monaco. This is Sam Bird, as we know, broken a bone in his hand. He's been treated by the medics here. I think he may have gone to hospital to have that cast put on as well. Unfortunately for the 37-year-old, he's out of the Monaco E-Prix. Taylor Barnard taking over his seat. Barnard qualifying at the back of the field, but nonetheless, given the fact he's only had half an hour's worth of track time right before this session going into qualifying, I think he'll be pretty pleased with that. And I think the Neon McLaren team will also be as well. And there's probably a good possibility, I would imagine, that we'll see Barnard out in Berlin in a couple of weeks' time as well. So it is Pascal Wehrlein then that takes top honours. Here's a super slow-mo of him sliding his way through the swimming pool. Second time that we saw Van Dorn and Wehrlein facing one another. On that occasion, Wehrlein also beat Van Dorn in Sao Paulo's final as well. And this was the run to the line for Pascal as he came across it to take pole position. And you can see exactly what it meant for the Porsche driver and for the Porsche team here in the garage as well. Of course, also, it does mean that Wehrlein will get the outright championship lead. He was tied on points with Jake Dennis coming into this weekend, but of course 3 points on the board now for Wehrlein. Puts him a few ahead of the reigning champion. Here is Stoffel Van Dorn. Special livery on the DS Penske here this weekend. And himself and Pascal just exchanging a handshake there in Parc Fermé as well. And we'll be hearing from Wehrlein in a few moments' time. And also we'll be hopefully reviewing the lap of that as well with Karun down at the E-pad. And Pascal as well, so looking forward to that. But Van Dorn now in the car, just getting everything weighed and all okay. And he'll jump out, and we'll be hearing from the top three very, very shortly. Well, Van Dorn then exits out of the car. Goes over to be weighed with all of his gear on, just to make sure he's complying with all of the regulations as he should be. And then, of course, we'll get the celebrations and ceremonies underway for the Julius Baer pole position. Albert Henrique, who will be the presenter for this one, the CEO of Bank Julius Baer in Monaco. You can see the fans that have flocked over. Lots of people coming from various different parts of the world. Some people coming from the UK and actually having a bit of a mission to get here as well due to some airport-related issues, shall we say. Air traffic control-related issues is probably the better way of putting it. And it is great to have them all here. The ones that have, some have actually flown to Italy, I believe it or not, and actually had to get the train from Italy through to Monaco instead in order to make the pilgrimage here for the E-Prix. Let's catch up then with Pascal Wehrlein after taking his third pole position of the season here in Monaco.
Well, Pascal Wehrlein, those 3 valuable points now puts you at the top of the championship leaderboard and your third pole this season. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a nice qualifying already. FP2, we improved quite a bit from FP1, where I wasn't happy with the car at all. So, yeah, good to bounce back like this. Very happy about our performance. You know, all my laps were pretty close to each other and just a tenth apart, I think, from my first duel to the last one. So, yeah, clean laps, good car, and very happy.
Yeah, your consistency in Formula E, both in qualifying and the race, has hit a new high.
Yeah, it's going well. We worked hard over the winter, and I think we understood a lot of things better. So it's good to see that the hard work is paying off.
Excellent. Well, let's get you presented. Let's introduce Albert Henrique, who is the CEO of Julius Baer Bank in Monaco, and present you with your third trophy of the season. Congratulations. To Pascal Wehrlein.
Thank you.
Well done. Hello. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Merci.
Well, pole position then for Pascal Wehrlein here. As I mentioned, his third of the season for Tag Heuer Porsche. Makes it his 6th overall in his Formula E career as well. Can he make it win number 7 this afternoon or win number 3 of the season? We will find out in due course. But another Julius Baer pole position trophy for the German driver to take home nonetheless. Let's catch up with Stoffel Van Dorn then, second on the grid, a first ever front row for DS Penske here in the Principality.
Well, Stoffel Van Dorn, what a turnaround for the race here in Monaco. It's going to be a good day.
Well, it started pretty okay, starting from second for the race, which is always good here around Monaco. I think we're a little bit on the back foot in practice, but we had a very strong qualifying. Just missing out a little bit on that final duel. The tires kind of not really coming to life, so missing a little bit of lap time. But you know, we're in a great position to have a good race.
It's been a challenging season for you so far, currently in P11th in the standings, but we're now at the midway point. This is a great time to put some valuable points on the board.
Well, it's always a good time. But yeah, it would be nice to achieve that here in Monaco. It's kind of a home race for me as well. We've got a special livery on the car, so yeah, it would be nice to bring home a good result.
Yeah, the car looks amazing, so good luck. Thanks very much. Stoffel Vandoorne.
Well, good to hear there from Stoffel Vandoorne, front row for him and for DS Penske here in Monaco. Just looking at the results of Vandoorne over the course of this season, I make that his second front row start of the year after he qualified in second in Sao Paulo as well. What a job in the sunshine then for these drivers. Lots of pressure on them all weekend. Of course, a very compact schedule with everything taking place here today. And what a result from Pascal Wehrlein. His third pole of the season, the 6th of his 20 of his career, and looking forward to seeing if he can take the victory. Well, here are some highlights then from qualifying. Of course, we've got the group stages underway here earlier on today. Drivers headed out onto the circuit. We saw Mitch Evans flirting with a bit of danger as he went slightly wide into Casino Square and almost looked like he was about to clip the wall on the exit of that corner, but fortunately managed to gather it up without too many dramas. He would progress forwards into the dual stages of qualifying. And when it came down to the duels as well, to be honest, I was thinking that it was going to be Mitch Evans' qualifying session to lose. But right when it mattered, that mistake crept through. So Taylor Barnard making his debut for Neon McLaren as well, courtesy of the injury that Sam Bird has picked up this weekend. A broken hand for Sam Bird. He'll be out of contention for at least the remainder of this weekend, and we wish him well and a speedy recovery. But Barnard slotting into that McLaren. Qualified last on the grid, but nonetheless, good experience for the youngster with very limited track time here in Monte Carlo. And this is Stoffel Vandoorne, some super slow-mos of the Belgian driver. Great job from Pascal Wehrlein in his group stages of qualifying and in the duels to make it through. Eventually, of course, he would go on to qualify on pole position. This was versus Mitch Evans as well. And Mitch, as we know, made that mistake on the final flying lap. Here is the Kiwi just clattering over the curbs at the swimming pool. To the delight of the Jaguar team. Nick Cassidy put in a good shift. Made a mistake, though, on his final flying lap in the semi-finals. And unfortunately for him, it cost him an opportunity to get into the finals and that front row for Jaguar at a weekend where they've looked very strong so far. Here you can see Jean-Eric Verne as he came across the timing line. Good job from Jean-Eric. He could be okay with that. This is the mistake, though, that cost Mitch Evans his lap time and ultimately a chance to get into the finals. As we saw Pascal Wehrlein coming to the line, and that's what it meant for him and for Florian Modlinger. Clipping into the wall, though, for Nick Cassidy as well, also thwarted the opportunity for the Kiwi. And then we saw Vandoorne versus Wehrlein. Vandoorne making it through, but Wehrlein ultimately doing enough to take pole position to the delight of the Tag Heuer Porsche team here in Monaco. Fantastic job from the young German. He starts at the head of the grid for round 8 here this afternoon. Looking forward to the Monaco E-Prix as we get ready for fireworks here this afternoon.
So it's Pascal Wehrlein who puts it on pole here in Monaco. It's his 3rd pole position of the season. A man who's in real confidence at the minute, leading the championship. And we'll see later on if he can convert that pole position into a win. And as we have a look now at the grid from back to front, we'll bring you that later on because we haven't quite got the grid as we speak. But Pascal Wehrlein, the both of you, I'll start with you, DC. Very impressive. He seems to be very assured in these pressurised moments.
Yeah, he started the day, let's say, a little bit tentative. I'm not sure if he had a particular issue in free practice, but he's just built and built right to the moment it mattered. So I'd say the perfect, flawless performance to pole.
What is that about, James? Because he does seem to just, I don't know, not make mistakes, essentially.
Well, when you have such a compact day, I mean, FP1, FP2, quali, you know, you have to build into it. So being fastest in FP is not the name of the game. It's learning as much as you can. But, I mean, we saw him struggle in FP1. He was far off. He was more than the second off, I think, the top of the times. And he just built into it nicely. And that lap at the end for pole was mega.
Yeah, it was indeed. So let's get into the details of it with Karun, who's on the E-pad.
Thank you very much, JJ. Well, you guys were talking about mistakes, and actually, let's talk about that instead, because the Jaguar drivers, I thought, were going to be in the final. I thought they were going to be battling for pole position between themselves. But let's first take a look here. This is Cassidy at the chicane, and we didn't get to see it on the live coverage, but basically he hits the barrier there on the left-hand side of his car with the rear wheel, and watch as he comes out of the chicane, it comes into a straight line. I'll just pause it, and you can watch when he's down the straight. Look, his left hand is down, and that's because the alignment of the car is gone out of shape. He's touched the barrier there, and the last sector of the lap was absolutely rubbish because of that. Let's go to Mitch Evans in the other Jaguar, his teammate. Now, he did the opposite in some ways of the chicane, braked, but just a little bit too quick. And instead of hitting the barrier on the left, he went straight and cut across the apex, the second apex of the chicane. That meant that his lap was deleted. So both Jaguar drivers had shown great speed and pace all day, but when it mattered in the semi-finals, they both came up with a couple of errors at the same spot.
Yeah. Yeah, really interesting that from Karun. DC, before we came over, and yourself, James, we were chatting about what we was expecting to be a really interesting final, because there was two drivers here in particular. I think Mitch Evans looking really good in practice 1 and 2, and Pascal as well. And we thought that could be, you know, a really interesting final. But both Jags just didn't seem to be able to get it done.
I mean, Mitch was so fast throughout the day. Mitch was there dominating every session. But that mistake that we saw from both the Jaguars there, they really, you know, missed an opportunity here to capitalise on the extra points for pole position. They need it a little bit, especially Mitch needed it. You know, he's 7th in the championship. He needed those extra points, and having such a strong free practice session, he needed to convert in quali.
And with that, those kind of your mindset of the championship and needing those points, does that change your style in those particular moments?
It shouldn't, actually. It shouldn't. Maybe your decisions you make in a race, but when you're going through qualifying and you know, I know in Misano with the peloton race, you could say, well, it doesn't really matter where I am in quali as long as I've got good energy recovery and strategy. But here, track position still is worth something. You know, you can overtake relative to some others. But what's interesting to me, they both made a mistake in the same place, but two very different mistakes. One, way too early on the turn and it hit the barrier. The other one, never made the apex at all.
I wonder if they gave some information, actually, to Nick.
Through the tunnel, you think?
I wonder if they gave information on Nick's preparation lap that Mitch had outbraked himself at the chicane, and then he braked early, and then he hit the apex.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
sounds like the wrong information as well.
Well, we'll have to find out.
Yeah, we'll have to find out. Some other big stories in quali today. Oliver Rowland, right in the mix in the Drivers' Championship. A disappointing qualifying session for him.
Yeah, very surprising to see the Nissan powertrain struggling here today. You know, they were the dominant force a year ago, and not having any of them in the duels was a big shock to us.
What do they need to do then? Like in a race like this one here in Monaco, because it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. What does someone like Oliver Rowland need to do, or Jake Dennis need to do to kind of get themselves into the positions that we've been seeing them in the races recently?
Park where they qualified, focus on whatever changes if they can make it for the race, and then just make sure they're perfectly positioned when it's bolting at the end. So both experienced drivers, both more than capable. I expect to see them go forward.
or I expect to see him in the wall. But let's hope they go forward. Let's hope not. I had a quick chat with Jake Hughes earlier on in the week, and he mentioned that this race could be a bit more like Brazil, peloton-style racing. So it seems like there will be places for overtaking, but just important when that happens.
No one's going to want to lead this race. The first 12 laps, no one's going to want to lead. They're all going to try to save the energy, build into it, and we're going to see a lot of action here at the start of the race today.
We are indeed. Do you think you can do it, DC? Pascal?
Yeah, I do. I think that you're showing great confidence, and we know they've got a great package.
Well, we have got the race coming up later on. It's going to be a really interesting one. It's Pascal Wehrlein who's managed to put it on pole here in Monaco, and we're going to see you for it all a bit later on. Come and join us then. Goodbye.